Alright, so this video has kind of been a long time coming, and I'm going to try to get through these pretty quickly because I don't know the amount of time that I still have on the camera. As I'm working with my cell phone, and it doesn't tell me because it's a cell phone. Um, long time ago, almost 3 years ago, back before I moved, I was trying to go through Tom Clancy's Some of All Fears. Uh, the reason why is because the game The Division had come out. Leading up to it, I thought it was going to be a really great game because I was thinking like, oh, post-apocalypse America, the division is between everyone in the nation. No, it's about the federal government's division to save us all. I don't know what I was expecting. It's Tom Clancy, so I haven't played the game. I saw it in like a bargain bin for $7. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a good game. I really don't know. Tom Clancy was a Baltimore native. He actually, I think, owned part of the Baltimore Orioles and died very mysteriously. On the wiki, it doesn't say. At least the last that I checked. So he's just like dead. Okay, how did he die? We don't know. That's not fucking normal. That's not normal to not know how he died. What? So, but either way, after the man kicked it, I decided that I would try to get through one of his books, almost in respect. It's good. It tickles that siphon filter. You know, it gets that siphon filter thing that you want out of it. I only got this far into the fucker, 700 pages in, and I think near the end I was just skipping the chapters about the submarines. Why do you write chapters about the submarines? Does it ever come in handy? Does it ever? Like, literally, I don't know what the submarines have to do with the plot. He's just, like, really buttfuck for submarines, man. Um, One of my favorite books when I was growing up was The Outsiders, and I know that S.E. Hinton did other works, and I found them in a local bookstore. And so I picked up several of them. I've only gotten through the very light Rumblefish, which still is amazing. She's a really great writer. She knew exactly what her tone was and what she was good at, which is like impoverished 1960s Midwest. You know what's the word? Greaser kids. That's what she does, and she does it well. You can read this in less than an afternoon. You know, this like might take an hour. It takes an hour. Look how big the text is. It takes an hour for me because I don't read that fast. I read a lot, but I don't read that fast. So you know, this video will be way too damn long if I actually sat and gave you every single my opinions on every single Cormac McCarthy book. But let me just say this. First of all, the way these are bound are fantastic. This line of his publishing, these paperbacks that have this really kind of weird textured cover. It's almost ASMR worthy. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me. Don't you look at me like that. Ironically, I never read Orchard Keeper. I just looked on my shelf and I was like, I have Orchard Keeper? I never read it. It's one of his that I haven't read, but the rest of them I've read almost everything he's ever written. I started with Child of God. It's very stark. Everything that the guy does is just stark and dark and horrible. His best work, what a lot of people consider his like magnum opus, All the Pretty Horses. It's more aimed at children. Okay, well, no, young adults. I'm pretty sure children don't read this shit about people getting burned alive and shit. But yeah, if you want to see a movie version of it, there is. It starred young Matt Damon, and actually, it was a really good adaptation. That weird book was the one about the gay cowboys. The Brokeback Mountain, they ripped a line right out of this. The original line, instead of, I don't know how to quit you, let's be gay and kiss, not that there's anything wrong with gay cowboys kissing, but you plagiarized the original line between two non-gay characters who were in a really rough situation is, I don't quit and I'm not going to quit you. I'm sure that people were going to debate whether or not that's true. The Crossing, did I ever finish? I didn't. I mark my, with a Pokemon card, I'm only this far from the end. I just never finished it. It's very dark, and it's exactly what I'm looking for. It is actually a continuation in a trilogy. The next book, what they call the Border Trilogy, of All the Pretty Horses, although it's starring a smarter character. Billy Pranum is cooler, calmer, more collected than Billy Joel. What's his name? John Grady Cole. In fact, John Grady Cole basically gets them all into fucking trouble. So, and of course, then there's just Blood Meridian. This is absolutely so fucking violent. There are parts of it where I was just like, there are parts of it where I was just like, well, that's just inappropriate. Like, fucking, it's dark. I like him because I think he was once quoted as saying, I don't focus on any art that does not pertain to life and death. He's like, that's all there is. And the point that I was going through my life, that was very congruent with a lot of the things I was going through. Bram Stoker's Dracula. You know, Bram is short for Abraham. It's a classic. It was around Halloween, and I was replaying Resident Evil 4, greatest game ever. By the way, the art style heavily influenced by this. Read this, and it talks about the blue flame that is used to locate great treasures. That's the blue flame. That's yeah. It's actually really cool. However, the horror stops about a quarter of the way through, and then a large chunk of it is just letters from his wife or his wife to be to other women, and the tone changes. I think he's a talented writer for being able to write from the perspective of two separate genders, but that's kind of a bait and switch. It's like, and yea, the vampire crept close, and then the knight the dagger, and like the next second it's just like, well, dearest Elizabeth, I am writing to you to let you know that a young man proposed to me, but I am sworn to another. Oh, the lovely flowers he brought, and I'm just, is this the horror? Is this what you're trying to scare me? It was the bait and switch? I never actually finished it. A lot of these books that I'm going to be going through, I have not finished yet. I've finished everything I've shown you so far. Dracula, I stopped at the letters to her boo. Fucking, I don't know. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. This is fantastic. I've always had a fascination with Buddhism. I found it was very compatible with my worldviews. I've actually recently been to a Buddhist monastery, a famous one in Maryland, that I visited. That's where I got my weird little mala beads that are very manly. Fucking, you count each bead and then you lift a heavier weight, bro. You don't even meditate to achieve a higher karmic plane? What's wrong, bro? I actually find that this is basically, a lot of his shit is just kind of Buddhism. I'm not suggesting that, like, he would have known about Buddhism. I'm suggesting that it's a very similar philosophy that I think works better for Westerners. In reality, I like all of the imagery of Buddhism, but I feel like this is more close to what I believe, because he wasn't against materialism, but a lot of what he said was about letting go and just kind of finding a way to be cool with the world and happy in a world that is not perfect. I really respect Marcus Aurelius. The Native American Almanac. I found this for $10 at a local bookstore. It literally just covers all of the history of the Native Americans from the arrival of the settlers all the way up to modern day. It's very depressing. It's not a good story. It's not a happy story. It's right up there. Cormac McCarthy would love that shit. I'm trying to make sure that the camera doesn't get blocked out by all the damn books. The Vampire Book. This is almost like the Native American Almanac, but less dark. It is literally just a encyclopedia of all things that relate to vampires, the lore, all the movies that was ever made. And it includes a lot of information on one of my favorite role-playing games that I have been in a campaign that has lasted over a fucking year, Vampires the Masquerade. I would go into it, but we don't have time. We don't have time to go into that. But yeah, it has a lot of information on that. The Secret History of the World by Mark Booth. I don't know. Still has that book smell. Fucking... Basically, The Secret History of the World, I got this on a whim because I was playing through and finishing up Uncharted 4. And I just needed to get some of that weird alternate history buzz. I needed to keep it going, and I know that Uncharted 4 wouldn't last forever. So I picked this up. It's not as much about secret history in a political way, so much as it is a retelling of origin stories and history through, on a weird occult lens. It's very wacky. You need to take several hits off the fucking pipe to get into this guy's world, but it's interesting, and if nothing else, it lends a perspective into a lot of weird stuff that was going on while playing Vampires the Masquerade. The DM was linking in a lot of things that make sense if you understand the secret occult history of the Ethiopians around circa 1 BC and stuff, and one of the other people we were playing with knew a lot about this, and so I was like, I gotta get my weird occult game on to understand all the weird dark stuff that's going on. This didn't really help, but it greatly interested one in that circle, so I picked that up, still reading through it. The Occult Guide to Southern America. Um, this I just picked up at the same place at a secondhand bookstore that I got the vampire thing. It's interesting. I haven't really gotten too much through it. A lot of it is just some explanations of a lot of the traditions that people down there have. Cannibalism of the dead. I couldn't actually argue with it. They were like, look, an animal is, we don't have burying techniques. An animal is going to eat my grandma. Well, shouldn't it be me? That's a sign of respect. I'm like, okay. Well, I can't argue with that. Um, Confessions of an Illuminati. I'm not even going to get into this. I don't even know why I talked about this. Not very much far through it. The writing is terrible. It's hard to understand. It's also just filled with a bunch of esoteric names that are all Italian and French, and I don't know why that bugs me so much, but it kind of coincides with the secret history of the world. Whether or not you believe in that kind of thing, I think we all kind of know at this point that Tolstoy is a little bit a conspiracy theorist, and, pro tip, that was a word that was invented by the CIA. You can read the CIA document on the internet. You can go on Google Images and see where it says, anyone who does not agree with the Warren Report will be labeled as a conspiracy theorist who is, quote, infatuated with their alternative set of events, or something like that. That's not creepy. That's normal. Governments do that all the time. And then, finally, the Tibetan Book of the Living and the Dead. Again, really fascinated by Eastern pantheist religions, Buddhism, Shinto, Taoism, all that kind of things, all those kind of things. And I've watched this in the bookstore on the shelf for 3 years, and no one ever picked it up. And one day, I decided I wanted to pick me up. I wanted a little Prezi for myself, so I bought me a Prezi, brand new book, instead of like scouring through old secondhand bookstores. They have a lot of those down here. Old people really like old books. They're like, I remember this one back when I kicked Hitler in the dick. So, I haven't gotten through too much of it. This is not exactly what I thought it was. I don't know what made me think it was like a weird Tibetan Buddhist tome about... It does. It contains information later on concerning you will reincarnate as XYZ if you do this. It's as if you piss yourself and soil yourself while dying, you'll reincarnate as an animal, which I guess they think is bad. When I visited the Buddhist monastery, they were doing chants to guide people who had died over the past year to a higher karmic plane, and the one lady who was leading it stopped and said, okay, next are the chants to keep them from coming back as dogs. And I was like, dude, why wouldn't you want to come back as a dog? But that was, no, not shameful. Shameful. Okay. I hate books that have covers. I hate hardback books. The covers are so... It bugs my OCD. A lot of this in the beginning, though, is really just prayers. Just chants to help guide you. It does have a really awesome opening that is a little hard to understand by the Dalai Lama. I forgot, I'm marking my place with like a page of like a cliff edge that I was on during one of my journeys. I printed these out to put in my little notebook, my little Nathan Drake journal. However, too many of these pictures stacked too many layers in the pages caused the book to not be able to be closed. Ain't that about a bitch. Interesting stuff. I'm trying to find a good chant for you. Kai-ho. A lot of this stuff for me is really hard to pronounce because it's a lot of the opposite of consonants. Vowels? Yeah, vowels. And a lot of it is translated into English, but then also has the pronunciation in whatever language. I don't know what language the Tibetans speak. Tibetan? I should probably know this. I rep out as like some kind of like weird, world adventurer, when in reality I just live in North Carolina. This is not... Yeah. Om Vajrasatavam Samayamanupalaya Vajrasattva Dvemnopatsita DRDHO Drdo Mi Bava Suposyo Mi Bava. Anyway, I was actually also recently at a Jewish synagogue Shabbat. And I was trying to keep up, and I was like trying to do all the weird Jew, Hebrew hymns or whatever. And I'm just, every so often the page would turn, some of them are easy enough, and they have the English, the phonetic spelling. And then some of them are just, you see the page turn, you're like, no, I'm good, man. You just look at it and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that to these people. I'm not going to look at their language and be like, and just have the person next to me go. Because, anyway, these are a lot of my literary recommendations. I think all of these are good and worthy to read. these were my opinions on them. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell. This will probably get like a view, and then YouTube will just take that view away.